So welcome to TikTok Live. And let's get started because as the title here says, we are doing cookies this morning because why not? I mean, after all, cookies are such a healthy breakfast to have on a Sunday morning, are they not? So 1 cup of flour and 2 cups of flour. 1 teaspoon of baking soda. Baking soda, for the record, is what allows the cookie to rise. I made a cookie without baking soda once, and while it tasted okay, it was just a very solid block. It did not have the consistency of a cookie. So yeah, the baking soda is important. Next we do 1/4 teaspoon of kosher salt, because you do need just a touch of saltiness in this. I've often wondered, does one little bit of salt in all of this flour and sugar really mean anything? And you know, I still haven't really gotten an answer for that. And from here, we now have one little additional ingredient that I like adding to pretty much most of my baking. Even though it's not used as often as it should be, I feel it should be used more often, and that is cream of tartar. What does cream of tartar do? That, in fact, is kind of like I don't know, you'd call it a stiffener, I guess. Gee, maybe I should call it cookie Viagra, I guess. Essentially, it holds it together, and it's less likely that it's to keep it from falling apart as it rises. So it's especially good with cakes. I've also had good luck using it with cookies. And from here, it's just a matter of getting out the whisking together these dry ingredients, because this is also an essential step, and it took me a while to realize this. Whisking your ingredients tends to, well, prevent them from clumping together, and it also mixes air into it. So you will, again, have a lighter cookie and less dense. Time to move on to the wet ingredients. Better. Anyway, baking considers sugar to be a wet ingredient. That's because we're going to be creaming the sugar and butter together. We are doing 3/4 of a cup of brown sugar. And I know I actually have a 3/4 cup. And this is turning out to be a pretty useful size as far as my measuring cups go. This should be about enough. 3/4 of a cup. And to this, we do 1/3 of a cup of regular sugar. The reason why we use more brown sugar than white sugar is to give the cookie more of a chewy consistency, which is, of course, what everybody likes. Yeah, I know there are clumps in the sugar. Well, I'm not going to die from that. But if you use more white sugar than brown sugar, your cookie gets something of a more like a cakey consistency rather than a chewy consistency, and everyone loves their chewy cookies. So, point of fact, it's better for that reason to use more brown sugar. And of course, brown sugar is just white sugar with molasses mixed in, but it does nonetheless change the consistency. All right, to this, there we go. Now the butter is no longer boiling, but it's still melted. And this was 1.5 sticks of butter. A lot of butter in this cookie. All right, and to this, we add an egg. Wow, this shell just collapsed. So I better be careful not to get any shell in here. Okay, come on. There we go. All right, now that we've done that, we're almost done with the wet ingredients. Frankly, this is almost done already. All we need now is a little bit of vanilla extract. And now that that's all done together, it's time now to mix the dry ingredients into the wet ingredients. Well, the wet ingredients into the dry. But from here, it's now just a matter of mixing it all together. And remember, we're not making cake batter here. We are making cookie dough, which means this will have more of a solid consistency when it's all mixed together, which it's already starting to do. That's good. Yeah, making these cookies from scratch is so easy. I really question why they even bother selling pre-made cookie dough at the stores. Of course, I realize saying that's probably blasphemy in itself. Because of course they sell the pre-made cookie dough at the stores, especially so that we can just get a big chunk of it and start chowing down on it. Everybody knows that's the real reason for cookie dough. In fact, only recently they've started selling eggless, cookie dough in the stores with no egg in it. Specifically with a part on the label saying safe to eat. And having done that, now comes what some folks would consider the most important ingredient: chocolate chips. And here come the chocolate chips. Thanks to that wonderful channel, Tasting History, I learned that chocolate chips were specifically invented for use in chocolate chip cookies. Apparently Nestle, and yes, I know Nestle is an evil corporation, but the fact is they did it. They were selling bars of Nestle baking chocolate in the early 20th century when the Toll House that is a hotel in Massachusetts apparently, invented the Toll House cookie. And they used to chop up the chocolate and put the chunks in. Of course, people still do that too. However, apparently Nestle's marketers discovered by the time World War II came around, the only reason they were selling those bars of baking chocolate at all was for the Toll House cookies. So instead, they phased out the bars of chocolate and started producing chocolate chips. And thus was born the chocolate chip. Well, the commercially produced chocolate chip. In fact, I think I will even just simply do this part by hand. Homemade cookie dough. I could just simply eat this as is. It's that tempting. However, I have a use for this, which means now that our cookie dough is ready, this aside and get out the skillet. And it's not just any skillet, but in fact, this is the state of New York, followed by the United States of America. Yes, indeed, these are cast iron pans in the shape of, well, New York and the USA. What can I say? It's like I could not resist these, especially since I live in New York. So, while we do this, let's dig out the Crisco. and start smearing it all over. Greasing the pan here. And besides, for something this shape, there is one problem of having a cast iron pan in the shape of the USA. It has a lot of little corners and angles that can be hard to get to unless you do it by hand the way we're doing it here. These cast iron pans, by the way, were produced by a USA company called the American Skillet Company. Anyway, as I said, a USA company called the American Skillet Company, which has just come back into business. You know, they're the ones, you've probably seen this. A few years ago, they actually started by producing cast iron pans shaped like all 50 of the United States. And, well, that's obviously a niche market. And all of these pans were made by, as I said, USA made company. They made these pans in the shape of the 50 states of the United States. And everything was done handmade. So these pans were sold at really crazy prices. You know, we're talking like maybe about $200 or $150 for something like this. Until last year, when the company announced that they were going out of business because, you know, well, times were tough and they couldn't continue the project. So they went out of business last year. Only last week, however, an email cropped up from them saying that they were back. They now had oh yeah, I can't forget Long Island. They had a new owner now, or they were under new management, I guess you could say. And they are up and running. And I guess they're still selling the pans from their original stock because you can get them right away on their store. I'm not selling them myself. I'm not getting a commission and they're not paying me to do this. On the other hand, I'm glad to see that they're back. All right, now that I've done that, it is time to lay down the dough. Yeah, I still have grease on my hands, I know that, but that's all right, it's just Crisco. Here we go. And this is not so difficult, as you can see. Simply press it into the pan. Note to self, I think using melted butter easier, in fact, than using softened butter in this recipe. I might even change that. Well, we'll see how the cookie turns out at the end. There we go. That's one. Now here comes number two. Okay, put a couple of these on top. I have a couple of spare chocolate chips here too. There's no such thing as too much chocolate. Probably enough anyway. All right. You just simply spread them out a little bit and press them down. And with that, our cookies are ready for the oven. The oven has been preheated to 325 degrees Fahrenheit. So we will move this little show over to the oven. Here goes the United States of America. Oh, I did forget something. A couple of little bits here. Let's see if I can't try to press something in. Yeah, to Long Island. should probably even take out this chocolate chip. I have no idea if that part's going to work or not, but in goes the state of New York. And especially because these pans are so small, I'm probably going to check them in about 20 minutes or so. And finally, after a total of about 25 minutes in the oven at 325 degrees, we have the New York Skillet cookie and the United States of America cast iron cookie.